We are on.
I got 7 o'clock. Welcome to the regular meeting of Helotes City Council for August 12th, 2021. It is 7 o'clock. This evening we'll have the invocation by Pastor John Rampay of Gateway Fellowship, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me, get that all out eventually. Please stand with me for the invocation. That's right.
Our Father, we thank you for your goodness, for your loving character, and your wisdom. Lord, you are the source of all wisdom, and you told us through your word that if we lack wisdom, that we can come and ask you. And I pray that you would give our leaders wisdom, that you would give them vision. We are excited for their leadership, and God, they serve our community, and we serve you. And I pray that you would help us to do that for your glory. God, I pray that you would give them courage to make difficult decisions at times. I pray that they would lead with love and a servant's heart, God, in a time where much of our community has been divided. I pray that you would unite minds, that you would unite hearts, that you would unite our community, our country, Lord. We pray for healing. And we thank you that you're with us, that we're not alone. And I pray that as a community that you will help us, oh Lord, to execute and fulfill the vision that you're giving the leadership of our community in the town of Helotes. We thank you. Help us, Lord, to glorify you. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you once again, Pastor Rampay. I remember we met some 15 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were out volunteering and giving away gas at the gas station, if I remember correctly. All right, we'll open our citizens to be heard, but don't have anybody signed up either electronically or in person. So that'll bring us to our consent agenda items number 3 through 6. Those will be all done together in one motion. Looking for a motion and a second to approve as written.
Chair, I move we approve consent agenda items 3 through 6.
I'll second.
Motion by Sanders, second by Crossan. Okay, without any questions or discussion on this, all in favor of approving items number 3 through 6 on the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. This brings us to the mayor's report, and there's a couple items that I want to talk about. Number one is that we have the 2021 street maintenance plan. A little update on what's going on with that. The most recent project, of which I will flash you a little map right here. It doesn't look like that much from as far as you are, but this is Iron Horse Canyon, and we're doing a resurfacing with something called HA5. It's a spray, a very thick elastomeric type spray that goes down on the roads. We'll be doing another project on Iron Horse Way, which will actually put a thicker layment down. But just a piece of information, why do we do these type of projects? Asphalt deteriorates, and the 3 main culprits are: 1, UV light. It kind of wears away the oils. Of course, rain and water washes away the oils, and that's what holds the aggregate together. And then, of course, water gets in the cracks, and that the third reason it washes away the substrate, and that's what gives us potholes. So this spray provides a UV protection, a sealant, and then prevents the base from being washed away. There was a little bit of difficulty getting everybody off the streets, but I think we went off without a hitch, and the streets look great, and we'll look forward to utilizing this product in other communities as well as the need arises. Our public safety and crime awareness. This item, we had a unfortunate rash of car break-ins, and it appears that a lot of them have to do with the fact that people are not locking their doors. Now, we are very aggressively investigating this and all crimes. Helotes is not an area where you should feel comfortable performing any crime whatsoever. I have zero tolerance for any crime whatsoever, and it is my intention to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, but let's not make it easy for people. Lock your doors, don't keep your wallets and valuables in plain sight. We need to do our part and not give opportunity. Coronavirus and COVID, as many of you are aware, Judge Nelson Wolf had filed a lawsuit against the governor and currently got a win, I guess they'll call it. And so there have been mask mandates placed in county buildings and city facilities in San Antonio. Currently, it's not applicable to us here in Helotes. Personally, my statement is this, is that, I've had COVID and I've also had the vaccinations, and I appreciate everybody that's gone ahead and gotten the vaccinations. It certainly does reduce the effects and provides layer protection. We certainly support every individual's right to choose, and I don't take that lightly, and we will fight to protect your right to choose. However, we do recognize that the value in the vaccinations, and we'll encourage everybody to do what you can to get vaccinated and protect you and your family. Vaccinations are widely available and free and without waiting at this point. And so we want to get through this whole pandemic as quickly as possible. This brings us to our items for individual consideration. So we're looking for a motion and a second to discuss and take action on item number 8 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 8 as written.
I'll second.
Massey and Merchant. Okay. Councilwoman?
Okay. Variance requests are usually only granted on hardship purposes. However, I believe that in the case of that we should also apply logic and fairness on these things. On this particular item, I drove, actually we have 3 variances to look at tonight, and I drove and saw all of them. I went to the houses and looked at all where the fences are going to be. The one on Beverly Hills Drive is a corner lot. So before I got here, I was concerned because corner lots are obviously, there can be a safety issue if the fence isn't put where it should be. You want to go up to a stop sign and be looking at a fence and shrubbery and that kind of thing. I did not find that problem in this case. The individual put the fence line, or the fence where the original fence was. And it was very far from the street. I know that our ordinance talks about 20 feet from their property line, but if they put, I think from the front, it was 0, it was right on the property line. But the property line is so far from the street, and it's commensurate and measures up with all of the other houses' fences, that it would look odd if it was pushed back 20 feet into their front yard. The same thing with the fence on the Doheny side. It also is commensurate. The house behind it, that fence is exactly on the same plane, the same line. So for us to me, it would not look good. It would be detrimental to the community to move that fence, and it's a very nice fence. It does not cause any kind of problem with the traffic. So I am inclined to approve this variance.
I also went out there today to this property, and I actually measured it, stepped it off, took my tape measure, took pictures. I did this. I can park my really big truck in the driveway and it not touch the fence. And I can see the road both ways. I can see around the corner. That's how the property's set up. There's no need to deny this variance. I agree with Ms. Massey.
So I do have a few questions. I did not go out to any of these properties and inspect them.
my colleagues. So I looked at it through the eyes of the process, and that's where my questions are going to revolve around. Because looking, I mean, our ordinance is written, it's black and white, and so theoretically, as I went through this and I thought about all 3 of these variances, I have to hire a surveyor to come into my backyard, my tiny little backyard, to figure out if I can even put a pool in there in Cedar Springs. And so I know I got to spend that money. And if I do, I know they got to put it in a certain way. So that's the lens I'm looking at this from. And so but I'll also take into consideration Councilwoman Massey and Merchant just said, and I appreciate that. And so I'm going to eliminate 2 of those questions and leave one. And unfortunately, Frank isn't here. What would be the city's liability going forward if we approve this, and let's say down the road there is a instance where we don't approve variance, and then they cite one of these 3, I'll stick to topic here, number 8, and they cite this is that we allowed this one. I mean, is this a case of, are we doing it because we need a right-of-way protected for future use, road expansion, something like that? Or if we approve this, the homeowners, will they know that if we ever need to, or the county or whomever, whatever entity needs to come in, they should know that this might need to be taken down? Or is that not even applicable?
That's not applicable in
Okay.
this. The reason that this ordinance is put in place is that some properties don't have such a big right of way. And so what it is that when you don't have that big right of way, a gate can't be that close. And so when you have a short right of way and your gate is that close and you park your car and it sticks out into the street, so you park your car to go open your gate, it sticks out, it causes a traffic hazard. In this situation,
Okay.
like Massey says, there is a bigger right of way. That's not in every case.
So the intent of our ordinance is safety in that?
Correct.
Okay.
That is the intent of the ordinance.
Just a point of reference, Board of Adjustments, I think, probably said it best when they were reviewing a variance here not too long ago. The point of a variance should not be simply to correct a situation that was self-inflicted. I built something and looking for permission or forgiveness afterwards as opposed to asking for permission. There really should be in the case of either hardship, severe economic hardship, or topography. In the case of, for example, it's backed up against a hill, and to comply would mean you'd have to build your house on the hill and at an angle or some such deal, or this would require infringement upon an existing structure or road or driveway or something like that. And in the particular case of this, this right-of-way at that property is so deep that if you went another 20 feet, it would encroach on their property, correct? And versus right now where the gate is, there was plenty of room to be able to park without a danger. So, that's something to consider, that the intent is fulfilled because of the severe size of right-of-way that other people don't have carving into their property. Councilperson.
Councilmember Salazar.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So first of all, I would like to commend the other council members for their diligence. I didn't have a chance to go and drive out there. I meant to and just didn't get to it. So I was just going by the pictures, and it looked like everything was in line. I think we should use this process exactly as we are, looking at a case-by-case basis, making sure that we have enough room and everything, and then it's okay. For those that come later and don't have enough room, we're going to disapprove it. This is the process, and we're doing it properly. So I'm happy. Everything that I saw, it looked good. It looked like it was in line, and it looks like it should move forward.
So I went out there as well, read through all the background information, and so I get it. Ms. Mendoza signed something that clearly said that she understood the 20-foot setback, but part of me still believes that there was a misunderstanding on her part. So I think she really thought she was fulfilling the requirement, specifically with the driveway gate number 1 on Doheny. I pulled in there with my 16-foot Ford Explorer and I had plenty of room. I know safety is a driving factor behind this ordinance, but I also think about road expansion, or if the city decides to widen the road and take full advantage of the 60 feet width, that could whittle away from some of that clearance in her driveway. However, in that part of Helotes, I just don't see anything in the near future that would expand, a requirement to expand that road. That's a secondary road buried within a residential community. So I support that variance as submitted. What I don't support is the one on Beverly Hills Drive. And my rationale behind that is there was no attempt to even try to follow the actual ordinance. Two, that is the main road in and out of Beverly Hills. And then thirdly, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but there's a lot of development happening around that area. And God forbid if that ends up creating more traffic through there, those type of things could come back and bite the city in the you-know-what. So I'm not willing to support that part of the variance on the gate that's on Beverly Hills. I still think it's a potential safety hazard, and I get it. It's not a primary gate, but I'm looking into the future, in the very near future, and I think that could be very problematic. And it's only 5 or 6 feet off the road.
So as a point of order, can we take a look at this? Because it technically is 2 gates and 2 variances in one application. We can take this as a 2 separate votes on variance for gates.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
May I say something?
Please.
The gate on Beverly Hills, all of the other houses have their gates or their fences along that same line all the way down the street. I don't know if you drove down the street and saw that. So your contention that it might cause some kind of traffic jam on Beverly Hills, well then, do we have all those other fences taken down and moved 5 feet in or 20 feet in? And the other thing too is that I didn't see that front gate is not 5 feet from the street, or it's a good 20 feet.
18 feet.
It's 18 feet. It's quite far from the street, the one on Beverly Hills. So, I just wanted to say that, I don't understand the reasoning of wanting to deny the one on Beverly Hills.
Mayor, may I make just a clarification point? So, Councilmember Massey, the issue isn't the fence. It's just the access gate. So we're not asking her to move the fence.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. So the fence would still stay in line with the rest of the properties that are there.
It's just
the access gates.
Okay. I need to look at this. Find it. Okay. Go ahead.
And I agree with Councilmember Massey about the other gates that are like that. They're actually like that throughout Helotes. In the older communities, the fences that have been up there for quite a while. I sense this is a grandfather kind of thing. And I believe Ms. Mendoza said she replaced an older fence that actually had a driveway fence. And I don't know, is she here, or is there anybody from that family that could answer that? The way I read it, it sounded like she replaced not the regular fence only that's on the property line, but there was also a fence across the driveway that was also on the property line. So she moved it 8 or 9, 11 feet back. So that's one of those things where when an ordinance changes and when it comes time to replace something, you have to fall in line with the new criteria. And I think that might be the answer. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know when this was adopted. I know they follow the international code, which was
2001.
okay. So, and that might be the possible answer to that. And I guess my last point, and I'll stop talking. We have ordinances to try, to follow. I I spent a lot of my life in the Air Force, so we always use rules as they're good guidelines, right? But sometimes you have to deviate, and that's why we have variances. But I think there should be a good effort to try to comply. And I don't understand. I don't understand why there's not even an effort to try to move that back. So you're off the property line for that gate that's along Beverly Hills Drive. Because to me, it looks like it's 5 feet, 6 feet from the road. I'm just looking at the picture. So.
19 feet right
Yeah, I got 18.
It's 18 feet.
there. It's 18 feet from the gate. I think what you're looking at there
From
is
the
the
gates
fence
to
line.
the road.
And then you have the gate that sets back a little bit further. The drawing's not really
There's
depicting
no-
the reality of the
Coming in and out of that space either, there's no obstruction left or right. We can see it right down the whole road.
I'm talking about that because
Yes.
it's your 18 foot.
Yeah,
So we're talking about the space between the actual sliding gate
yes, and the road.
and the road, so that's 5, 6 feet.
No, that's 18 feet. From there to the gate is 18 feet.
Oh,
I measured it today. I promise you, I went up there to take a measure.
Okay, because gate 1 looks like that.
Gate 1 is over 25
Yeah, that one.
feet.
Yeah, that looks
It's
fine.
even larger.
But okay,
I changed my opinion.
18 feet, all right.
All right.
I guess we need to take measures for this when we go.
I mean,
Not a bad idea.
I even took pictures.
All right, well, let's, if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and break this into two votes. One will be for gate 1, which is on Doheny. All those in favor of approving the variance on Doheny, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All in favor of approving the variance for the gate on Beverly Hills, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Brings us to item number 9, which will be looking for a motion and a second for discussion and taking action, approval of a variance for Edward Olmo.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on number 9 is written.
Councilwoman Massey, second.
I'll second that.
Cross. Councilwoman.
First, I appreciate that fence isn't there yet, so, that's always a good thing. So, but there are those pillars, and I'm assuming those pillars are going to be where the fence is supposed to be located, and the gate, the access gate. Again, I went up and saw this area, and there is an issue with the land and the topography and the way the driveway is situated. And if we look at the pictures, there's even a 40, depending, if you go in diagonally, which is the way you would be going in, there's 40 feet from here to where the gate would be. So, I don't see an issue. And again, it's a safety issue. But the other thing about this particular street, if it is a Tower View, if you go up that street, on the same side of the street that this house is, there's at least 3 or 4 other houses that have metal gates that are like 5 feet from the street. I'm sure those were put in before the 2001, but there's 5 of them. I was surprised at how close those were to the street. Now, this is a residential street. It's not a real main street. It's called Tower View for a reason. It goes way up. So it's not likely that anything's going to change on that street, or it's not going to be widened. But I just think it's unfair, and again, let's look at logic and fairness, to make Mr. Olmo move all of this back, and then he's got the trees, and there's, again, the topography, to move all of his back 20 feet or however many more feet. His property line wasn't as much, but it would actually look odd compared to the other ones that are almost right on the street. Anyway, I am inclined to approve this variance for those reasons.
Well, I certainly appreciate having the photos in the packet. So, again, I did not go out and measure like everyone else did. So the photos are, I was going off of the driveway one where it showed
you measured 40 feet on one side and 40 feet on the other. And, and honestly, I'm glad that Councilwoman Massey and Councilman Merchant went first on the last one, because they're bringing up points of logic where I was looking at it through the eyes kind of where Craig was from, prior, I was in the Army, and so I was looking at, it's black and white, but I on the face of it, yeah, it looks right. It looks right, and we're not going to have to worry about any expansion or issues, going out that way. It alleviates my concerns about approving this.
Okay. Anybody have any additional points beyond what was said?
No, just I wanted to reiterate that looking at the pictures, it definitely looks like this is not a safety issue, that it will be fine. So I'm also inclined to approve the variance for safety reasons.
Additionally, I think I would point out that to move 20 foot back would go and encroach on the existing semicircular driveway. Is that correct, Mr. Olmo?
Yes, sir. It would push it way back to make that driveway
Almost unusable.
Yeah.
And that was an existing driveway, correct?
Yes, before I bought the house, I was already put it. That was grandfathered.
The driveway was grandfathered, and the gates are coming in diagonally, so I think we got our 40 foot, but that is for council to decide. Well, without any additional discussion, questions, all in favor of approving variance for the house owned by Edward Olmo, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item number 10, looking for a motion and a second for discussion and taking action on item number 10 as written.
Mr. Chair, I move to discuss and take action on agenda item number 10.
I'll second.
Councilman?
So I'll be pretty brief. So they obviously were perfect on the access gate on the primary entrance in and out of the Parker and Parker Investment parking lot on Scenic Loop. They did a pretty good job on the backside on Marnark Road. It looks like they miscalculated a little bit. I'm going to support this because this is not a primary entranceway. The way I understand it, it's just an emergency exit. And I know the folks out here, if you haven't seen it, they're short. It's kind of on an angle, so it's like 1 foot short on this end and 4 feet short from reaching the 20-foot setback. So, yeah, I have no problem supporting that variance.
Again, for safety reasons, looking at the pictures, it looks like this would not be a safety issue. So for that reason, I will be supporting this variance.
And according to AG and Associates, of course, the setback is 20 feet, and this gate was constructed at 19 feet inside the property line. So we are only dealing with 12 inches here. As a point of information.
There is no visual obstruction anywhere coming in. So there's
Anybody have any additional comments or information? Okay, all in favor of approving the variance for Thomas and Cynthia Parker, item number 10, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This brings us to item number 11, which will be the appointments of the Ethics Commission. Looking for a motion and a second for discussion and taking action on item number 11 as written.
I make the motion to have discussion and action on item 11.
I'll second.
Councilmember?
Okay, I want to say that I am so proud that we're having an ethics commission. I really think it's an opportunity for the community to have something to say about choices that we're making, about decisions that affect the entire community. So I'm very excited that we're going to have the Ethics Commission, that we're going to have input from the community on everything. So I'm excited to be here, excited to have my nominee here to represent for Vicewood, and I'm eager to move forward on this.
I'm going to take a we have a privilege here. We have one person that we are going to have to pull. One of my nominees, Mr. Jeff Felty, who is here, on a technicality because he is a volunteer firefighter for our community. And for those who didn't realize we had volunteers, we have one. That'd be Mr. Felty. And the significance of this is that because of his presence and listing on our books, we are able to be able to apply for certain grants that we wouldn't be able to if he wasn't. Not only that, he does make runs, and unfortunately, due to a technicality and a definition, volunteer firefighter falls under definitions of appointed official. Had to dig deep to figure that out, but so unfortunately, due to his tremendous service to our city, we can't have him serve our city in this capacity. And it is with great sorrow that I have to remove my nominee for place 7. I will be submitting another, and we can put that on the next agenda. So anybody that might have comment on that, we'll just go ahead and make that unfortunate withdrawal. Councilman.
Sir, thank you. Again, I'm going to thank you for saying what you did, ma'am. I'm really proud of the people who stepped up and said, yes, I can do this. Ethics is very important to government and to keep government officials honest. This commission is extremely necessary. So I thank those of you that are here. I thank those of you that are stepping forward to be on this committee. Thank you very much.
Are we going to be able to, are some of them here that we can meet?
Yeah, yes, sir, we can. We have Michael Duff. You here? Michael Duff.
Can you just stand?
Which is, this is Councilmember Sanders' nominee, Michael Duff. This will be place 1, expiring May of 2022. We have Councilmember Salazar's nominee, Brianna Bullis, for place 2, which would be expiring May of 2022. Councilmember Crossan's nominee, Keith Kuba. There we go. Hello, how you doing, sir? Place 3, expiring May of 2023. Councilmember Massey's nominee, Joseph Bohe. Sorry. Close enough. All right. Councilmember Merchant's nominee, Derek Mathis. And my other nominee, Jesse Saldana. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Give your hand for Anybody has any questions at all for the individuals, feel free. If nobody has any additional comments or questions.
I just would like to thank everyone for stepping up and doing this. Hopefully you won't have to meet too often. I know that from what I'm looking at, it's a once a year you meet, and then if issues come up, then you would meet again. And I guess your first meeting would be in February, and you would be picking your officers. But again, my hope is that you won't have to meet, because then that shows that we don't have a lot of ethical problems going on in Helotes and our city staff, our officials. But of course, if you need to, that's you'll be there ready for it. And but again, I want to thank you all for stepping up. And I would like to also thank Rich for reigniting this commission, which was stagnant for many, many years. Actually, was never even staffed. So again, thank you, Rich, for doing this.
All right. Yes. Okay. So all in favor of approving members, nominees for places 1 through 6, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Both on board. Thank you very much. All right, this brings us to the monster in the room, number 12. Looking for a motion and a second for the presentation and discussion on our proposed 2022 municipal budget. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear this presentation. I move we move forward with item number 12.
I second.
That's right. We weren't at the last meeting.
That's
Excellent. All right.
Actually, y'all have 2 PowerPoints. You have the budget document in front of you, and there's 2 PowerPoints on the left-hand side. two of them you haven't seen. One of them is the economic development budget presentation. I thought that was very important for y'all to see that. This was presented to the EDC board on July 21st.
Yes, let me go ahead and make just a pause. This is a very lengthy one, and do not feel bad if you guys want to pull up anchor and head out. That's not going to be taken as any type of offense. It is, however, packed with about every piece of information on every dollar we spend. So if you have an interest in that, you will get an eyeful.
The presentations are not as long as the actual document, right? So the EDC proposed budget is consistent with the mission, vision statement, and the goals of the Economic Development Corporation. It provides a fiscal plan to accomplish the priorities set between our strategic work plan, and it allocates the resources to provide business development through effective communications and highlights the allocations for the EDC. The main resource and the only basic resource for the EDCs is our sales tax. The current sales tax for the city is 8%, which includes 0.25% that goes to street maintenance and 0.5% that goes to the EDC. The other 1% goes to the city, and then 6.25 goes to the state. The proposed budget for the EDC is projecting $1.8 million for our budget. The next slide just kind of shows the revenue and how the revenue has increased. We've been it's been very lucrative in our sales tax, even with COVID. The next two slides just shows the revenue increase, where we basically at one point it was just the revenue and interest. The last year we actually get a sublease from the chamber for the offices that the EDCs have, so they do sublease an office there. The EDC budget, the proposed personnel is $95,000, constructional services is $915, commodities is $819,000, and then the total expenditures is $1.8 million, which is a 38% increase from last year, and I'll explain what those increases consist of. The main program changes is that we will be looking at adding an increase in conceptual design to be used for marketing and incentive tools. It's an increase from last year from 15,000 to 30. We will also include marketing and tourism. We're looking at destination marketing to attract new businesses, and also to support the current businesses. With COVID, with it still being active, we feel that we need to have money in there for that. And then event marketing, any events within the city, not just our events, but events that maybe businesses have, maybe nonprofits have, other events that we can basically help market. And then any EDC marketing. So that total is there. We also included supporting city events. So last year we had it for $110,000, but we really looked at what actually is spent within those three categories. Three categories that the EDC helps support are categories of events that provide economic development growth for the city. So that is Marketplace, the Carnival Parade, and the Christmas Parade, because it brings people into the city to spend money within the city. So those are the only events that qualify.
July 3rd.
No, it does not, because it's actually outside into, and there's vendors there, so it doesn't bring in and doesn't bring people to spend money within the businesses. So these are what will bring people to spend money within the businesses. Okay. We've also looked at putting $150,000 for a business grant for tenant improvement program. This will support new retail and food beverage-based businesses along the Highway 16 corridor. There was a lot of empty businesses this past year within that corridor, and a lot of it we heard was because there was not funds to be able to, or these businesses didn't have funds to be able to renovate within or make that business, change what it was before. It might have been a restaurant at one point, and they needed it to be a retail center, or vice versa. It's a reimbursable grant up to 50% of the cost not to exceed $30,000. The other one is to continue our e-commerce grant. This will continue from this past year, and this is to be able to help businesses with websites and e-commerce sites. We actually removed, these are other programs, such as the Visitor Center conceptual at this time, because it's a long term, and so we feel like just putting a small amount right now is not feasible. It's not something we're taking out of our strategic work plan, it's just something we felt like it was just not, this is a long term, we need to work on building onto it. The other one is the agreement of the reimbursable. As much as our sales tax increases, so does our payment out to our 380. So this is a 380 agreement which we have with one of our developers, with Texas developers, and so what it is we pay out sales tax. So they've been very lucrative in sales taxes, so we pay that out. So that is, it's a win, and I'm sorry, there's a zero missing. It's going to increase to 800,000. This last year we paid 600,000. And then we have some money for some future development for land acquisition. We're working on a project. If it doesn't work out, that money would go back into the fund balance. If it does, we have to budget for it, so we have to put it within the budget. Some other program changes. We put $15,000 for a Lomar for our city engineer. Completion needed for the pedestrian bridge is a requirement. We finished the Lomar, we did not do the Lomar, and that is needed for FEMA. That was a requirement when we built the pedestrian bridge. So that part of the engineering did not get completed. So that's going to cost $15,000. Also, bridge lighting. This is a consideration for extra lighting for the pedestrian bridge. This is what the board, actually, we put the 2 lights up on the side of the bridge, but they're looking at lighting the actual bridge itself. We're still in development right now, because if it's going to cause any damage to the bridge, we won't do it. So that's something, so that we just put that money as an earmark. On fund statements, the proposed fund allocations of 1.7 million represents an increase from the cup. That actually is an incorrect number. It's now 8.3. That didn't include the land acquisition that was from the last budget. So those, I didn't update that. I apologize.
So what is the number?
It's actually
108.
$1,895,350.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a
38.1%.
38%. Yes, increase. So the total revenue projected is 1.8 million, which represents a 28% increase, and the proposed budget will produce 169,000 in net revenue after expenditures, which is a decrease from last year. The big things are the land acquisition and the grants that are. Like I said, if that land acquisition does not occur, then that money will go back into our fund balance. The next slide shows what we're projecting. Our beginning fund balance from 10/20 was 1.7. Our projected revenues at the end of this year is 2 million. Our projected expenses is 1.7. At this time, we still have reserved funds of capital projects of 475,000, and then we have projected unreserved balance of 1.5. For next year, we're projecting to begin our fund balance at 2 million, our proposed revenue at 1.8, our proposed expenses at 1.83, and our reserves at 475,000. Having an estimated unreserved balance of 1.6 at the end of next fiscal year.
One quick question here, and a couple statements if you don't mind. All the items you had in here, including salaries, added to 1,394,000. You have expenditures here of 1.83 million. So about 400 and 35, or are you talking about the 475 reserve capital projects? Is, well, that doesn't come out of the budget, so we're missing $400,000.
No, let's see, 95, add, 95, 94, plus 995, 2. No, it comes out to, if you add the 3 lines up on this.
No, what I'm talking about is in all the slides.
Oh, on the slide?
All the slides plus the salary line comes to basically 1.4
No,
million.
those are just
So there's
saying,
another 430,000 worth of expenditures. Where are those generally classified as?
different things, commodities, those were just the main changes. If you actually go to, we have it in, tab S, shows the full breakup of the EDC.
Got it.
So tab S, and you go to the last line, that actually shows exactly where every line item.
Got it.
On the PowerPoint, I just pointed out the big changes.
And of course, the tax rebate on 380 does come out of the EDC money, not out of, the city receives the sales tax, but they pay that out of the
No,
EDC.
we pay portion of it, and EDC pays portion of it.
So their 800,000 is their portion of it.
Correct.
Approximately what percentage, do we know?
They pay the 0.5, a quarter of a cent, whatever that we pay
2/3 and they pay
2/3
1/3.
and they pay 1/3, yes.
Got it. The other point that I want to bring out that kind of jumped out at me was that EDC is getting 38% increase in expected revenues, yet they're decreasing the expenditure on marketing and tourism by 41%. It would seem that if their budget is going up 40%, marketing and tourism, I see a similar size increase as opposed to a polar opposite decrease.
We did increase on the EDC, they increased the other tourism, they decreased the city event tourism portion of it, but they did increase on the other marketing and tourism, and they increased on the grant.
Talking about the destination marketing,
Correct.
so that went up. We lost 36. We lost $46,000 in Helotes marketing tourism, and we picked up 30,000 in destination.
We picked up actually 45,000, we only budgeted last year 30,000, and then the rest of the money actually went into the business grant, 150,000.
To 75,000. So it's just basically between the two, about break even for the year. Would have liked to have seen an increase in that particular scene, well, that is the primary function of their existence is destination and business marketing. And it's a very small percentage of their overall budget, $50,000 out of $2 million.
On marketing and tourism, we're limited to how much we can spend. They don't.
For attracting new businesses?
Yes,
So-
you have to put it
so
more
on-
in grants and so forth. You can't put it in marketing and tourism. You can only spend 10% of your budget.
But this is for attracting new businesses.
For marketing, correct.
Destination marketing for attracting new businesses, but the primary reason for the existence of the EDC is for the economic development of our city. Drawing new businesses into the city is
Right.
half, and the other half is making sure that our businesses continue to yet they account for half of 1%.
Right, and well, that's why you can put it into like the grants, the 2 grants that we put in, either through the business grant for the tenant improvement program or the e-commerce to attract new businesses to come in. That's one way of putting it. Or if we do another kind of 380 agreement, which that would come out of our reserves. But the 150, a business grant and so forth. It can be, we are proposing a tenant improvement, but that could be another kind of grant. But by regulations, on what we call marketing and tourism, you can only limit yourself by a certain amount of money of your whole budget.
This says 75, getting confused.
Yeah, that's combined with the 4 categories. Previously it was 30,000. Now it's going to a total of 75. We're shifting over 45,000 from events to that category.
So that's right.
So net, the 2 categories combined shows 0% total growth. Okay. So process on this is, this would get approved, EDC's budget still has to be approved by council, and it goes through the similar process of what we're doing through
Right, we
city
do a
budget.
public hearing, right, we'll do a public hearing, and so the public hearings, the same time we do our public hearings, and then the EDC board approves it, and then it comes back to council for approval on the 23rd.
Okay.
The next one is the city's budget presentation. This proposed budget is consistent with our mission plan, visions, and goals of the city, allocates resources to city departments to provide excellent municipal services, and highlights how the allocation of the city financial and capital resources are targeted to maintain efficiency and our daily operations. Our property tax rate, Bear County District certified totals for 2011 net taxable was 1.3, 37% increase from general fund revenue, and we are one of the lowest rates compared to 25 suburban cities. The next slide shows it compared to the other cities and what our comparison was from last year. Our property tax history.
I don't mind to just to hit these so we catch them along the way, maybe streamline this with a ton of questions.
Okay.
One of the topics that has come up for questions is appropriate balance of revenues for the city. Way back in the day, Councilwoman Massey will remember when she first got on, we were out of whack. It was very high, disproportionately high from residential property taxes, and just a little bit from commercial property taxes, and a little bit from sales tax. We just didn't have enough businesses. We got an office way back then, set to work on there, and then continued to work on our previous council, and brought that back into balance towards the goal of basically a third of residential property, a third of commercial property, and a third from sales tax. And that's a general rule of thumb of you got a good balance if that's the case. Now, Helotes is moving into what I would call a golden era, if it continues the direction where it's going, where actually, because the businesses are doing well, sales tax continues to grow higher, and provides a disproportionately higher percentage of revenues, which takes the burden off the need to have taxes on our properties, and that is an excellent thing. So we have some financial challenges, but we are moving in the right direction. The city's done an excellent job over the past 15 years of rebalancing and reprioritizing where we're getting our revenues. And so that conversation will come up, so just kind of wanted to add a little bit to your slide on that is background where why 37% is a key number in that category for property taxes.
Our property tax history since 2013, our taxable property has steadily increased, and we've maintained the same property tax equivalently since that rate since 2013. Property tax rate, our current rate is 0.346524. The new, what's called the no new revenue rate is 0.344. The voter approval rate is 0.34393. The proposed rate for this year would be the no voter approval. Usually what happens is your no voter approval is higher than the no new rate, but because of debt services and we paid off the lawsuit, our INS, which is our interest and sinking, has lowered. So that is why our voter approval, again, like last year, is lower than our no new revenue. And what the no new revenue rate is basically saying that at this rate with no new evaluations, you would make the same amount of money, the same amount of revenue as you would. And so, to have a no voter approval, we're proposing actually decreasing our tax rate by 0.002 cents.
I'm confused about, it says voter approval tax rate,
Uh-huh.
which is the same as the proposed 2021 tax rate.
So,
We're going to propose 2022, is this, we're
Yes.
working for 2022. Okay, so is that?
well, yeah, the 2021 is the rate that's the proposed rate for this year.
But it's the same as the voter approval, that means we have to send it, give it to the voters to
No,
approve.
as long as it's not above the voter approval, then you don't.
Our voter approval that requires would be if it was going to be above 3.3443, and we're going to be at 0.3439. So we're going to be lower than the required threshold, the required vote. And actually, our rate, just to clarify, our property tax rate is decreasing this year. Our previous tax rate was 0.346524, and we're moving to 0.3439. So it does not take voter approval to decrease taxes. It only requires voter approval to increase and increase above
A certain
amount. And so
If we
they,
went above that voter approval rate, then we would.
Okay, I got you. So our tax rate's going down this year.
Yes.
correct.
The next slide shows.
Very slightly,
Very slightly.
but a little bit.
It shows what it has been, what it was in 2020 and what we're proposing, and it shows that slight decrease. The next slide shows how it's broken down, how much goes, what's in red is what is our interest in sinking, and what's in blue is our M&O, which is what goes to general fund. Bear County appraisal estimates the number of property owners who qualify for the tax freeze in 21 will increase by 39. This includes the disabled veterans, surviving spouse, disabled persons, and over 65. Sales tax revenue is the largest source of revenue for the city. And I stated our current tax rate is 8%, includes 6.25 that goes to the state, 1% goes to the city, general fund, 0.2% goes to street maintenance, and 0.5% goes to the EDC. That is how it's broken up.
Can we take a quick second about the tax freeze? Was instituted many years ago. We were on council. Freezes taxes once you get to 65 years old. Your taxes do not increase at that point until you sell the house and move on. Then the house will be reevaluated at current market price. Previous years, for the past X number of years, during budget review, if you go back and you look on historical documents, there was we found and discovered an inaccurate calculation on how much it was costing Helotes. They were calculating it to be close to $1 million a year. That is not the case. We found and corrected that equation. It turned out to be $224,000. $242,000, not $1 million per year. Well worth it, because by the time you're 65, you paid enough taxes to pave the roads with gold, I'm sure. So I'm very glad to continue to be able to have our over 65 and our disabled tax breaks or tax freezes, but it is not as extensive as what previous years had been stated.
The proposed budget of rejecting $6.4 million in collected for sales tax. It's divided at 830 would go into street maintenance, 1.8 will go into the EDC budget, and 3.7 will go into general fund. The next slide shows the breakup of the total revenue, the 8.9 million, and how that's broken up. And like the mayor was talking about, we have a very healthy percentage breakup. 38% is property tax, 41% is sales tax, and then all the others are broken up. So we are very even. We're not top heavy from one or the other compared to property and sales tax. And that really did help us with during the pandemic. It really did. It kept us very healthy. The proposed department expenditures is 8.6, And then that's broken up and shows where those funds go between fire, EMS, police, building maintenance. The reason the building maintenance is so high, that is where that 380 agreement where we pay out that sales tax goes into. The next slide shows how it's broken up. Public safety, which is police, dispatch, fire, EMS is 49% of our budget. Administration is 10%. Courts and warrants is 8%. The building grounds, IT, and the 380 agreement, which are non-departmental things, are 22%. Public works is 7%, and development service is 4%. The next slide actually shows what the proposed budget breakdown is in each department to make up the $8.6 million. And then within your budget, that actually shows each line item, and that's where we have this taken to you, where it breaks down the personnel, the commodities, the contractual, and any capital. And this shows what the FY21 budget you adopted, where our projected year end will be, and then what our proposed will be. Our authorized positions, we are not looking at any additionals to our full-time. In 21, we had 71, our part-time 16. This year we're keeping the 16, we are just kind of moving the allocations of some of our part-time. We had 7 in administration for our special events tab. We looked at it. We can work with 5 to allow us to have more in our bailiffs, part-time bailiffs, and also in our police department. We also looked at our fire. We had 4 part-time, but being fully staffed and working with the fire department, the chief has decided he has not needed to use part-time fire at this time. So we've been able to reallocate that into different departments. In your fund statement, general fund revenue for 2022 projected to be 8.9, which represents 6.3% increase from the current adopted budget, and the proposed expenditures is 8.6, which represents an increase of 4.6% from the current budget. The overall program changes in order to continue to remain competitive in recruiting and retaining. We will look at different percent merit adjustments varying by each department to be included in the proposed budget. This year it will be a minimal due to increased healthcare cost estimates. The quoted healthcare premium that we first got quoted was a 30% increase, but we met with the insurance broker to view all our options, and we're offering different healthcare plans options to decrease the cost for both the city and our employees. So we're still working that out. It will not be a 30% increase. We don't have that full percent increase right now, so I can't give you that number, but we are looking at different options to ensure that there is a cost savings for our employees.
Can you tell us why it's a 30% increase?
There are different factors. Some of it has to do definitely with the pandemic, everything has increased, but there are other factors with something else.
That's a good question. It's worth a transparent statement on that. Generically speaking, when an insurance company figures out what your premiums are going to be the following year, they take a look at your history, the last several years worth of claims, and take it as a percentage of what you paid in premiums. And the general rule of thumb, 80 to 85%. If you pay $100 in premiums and you have claims of 80 to 85%, that allows them to have their profit margin and operating, and everything works just fine. If you start having $120 of claims for every $100 you're paying, obviously they're losing money, and then they need to increase. And that has been a trend. We are starting to see a change in that trend. And if we take a look at the past 10 months, we're actually more in the line of 83%, which begs the question, if we're going down, why are our premiums going up 30%? And insurance companies are pretty notorious for, if you think about it, you buy a brand new $30,000 car, here's your insurance premium, 10 years later, when your car is worth $1 and your premiums are still higher than what have gone up over the 10 years. Why? Because they always increase, and sometimes you have to shop around. And so that's a process of what we're doing. And I'm very optimistic. We haven't made any final decisions on that, so there may be some minor changes, but nothing that would change the bottom line in each category, between salaries and raises and monies we have to allocate towards insurances. And we plan on being very transparent with our employees to take a look at different plans to get their input as well, so they're not thrust with a plan that we decide is best for the budget. We would take a look at what's in the best interest of our employees as well and get their inputs as well. We look at having those meetings starting Monday, and so hopefully by our next discussion on this topic, we'll have a lot more specific numbers to narrow it down, but those will be single line items that don't change the bottom line items in each division.
The highlights of this proposed budget, we've increased our sales tax revenue. There's an increase in the property valuation. We reallocated 380 agreement payments from administration to building and maintenance to make that more of a non-departmental budget. Due to anticipated sales tax revenue increases, there also was a correlation on the expenditures of the 380 agreement payments. General fund highlights, reallocation of staffing from dispatch to public works. So you saw that we did have 71, but we did reallocate a dispatcher to public works to allow for restructuring of the department to meet the needs of the city's growing infrastructure, so that we have 3 different divisions, which is parks, streets, and right-of-way maintenance. We've also put more money in traffic signal maintenance. We have older equipment out there, so we continue to make sure that we maintain that. Also, our city attorney, as you notice, comes to every second meeting, so there is a cost increase in that, so attending that, there is that. We've also added an employee recognition event that has not been in the budget in the past. Also, IT maintenance agreements, there's an estimated 3% increase to that. And then last year, an asset management software, Cartograph, was not budgeted appropriately in FY22, so it was added this year. Reallocation of the events from the EDC budget, which is EDC supporting the economic development related to public events. Last year, the way it was budgeted, it showed in those budgets, so we got reimbursed from EDC. This year, it's a cleaner budget where that money is just paid out through EDC. So it's not a moving of, okay, it's paid through the city and then we get reimbursed. It's just paid through just the EDC. Reallocation of fire department part-time staffing funds to overtime in both fire and EMS. So that's how, as the chief was looking at his budget, we looked at increasing the overtime and not doing the part-time staffing because with COVID and so forth, he was not getting part-time staffing because other departments were not allowing people to work part-time in other departments. We're continuing to upgrade our public safety portable radios, preparing for the required update for the P25 radios for 2022 and 23. Next slide shows our fund balance continuing to increase over time, and this just shows 2020, and you'll see a different increase. The next budget presentation, I will have another slide that I didn't get to put in here, which will show the months that the mayor and I spoke about. The projected general fund allocations, beginning balance from October, 2020, our fund balance was 1.7. Our projected operating revenues was $9 million. Our projected department expenditures is $8 million. Working capital operations is 1.2. We're proposing to transfer $300,000, leaving us a projected general fund balance of 2.7. So at the end of this year, we'll have 2.7. The governmental recommendation of 3 months. In case of emergencies, 1.2. The city policy is 1.4. They actually recommend to try to have at least 5 months. This is a 3 months, and that is our goal, to have between 5 and 7 months in the next coming years that we're looking at. The proposed general fund balance for FY '22, we start off with 2.7, our proposed revenue 8.9, proposed department expenditures 8.6, with a working capital of 295, estimated unreserved balance will go up to 3 million. And this is just an overview of other governmental funds. In your book, there's a lot more. This is just the 5 that we kind of use more often, our capital projects, which is, which we pay out of current lease payments. We're looking at buying 2 new police vehicles and equipment, which would be $28,000. Our Symphony consoles, which would be for dispatch, is $94,000, and our Vista comm recording, which is $20,000, which would leave us with $479,000 at the end of fiscal year '22. Street maintenance, we're projecting an expenditure of $830, which would leave us a projected balance of 1.4. Court technology, we're looking at some court and warrant hardware and software of $10,000, leaving us a projected balance of $24,000. Our PEG fund, which is the funds that we get from the cable channels, and we're anticipating some requirement to pay maybe some monthly fees if the PEG channel starts again. If it doesn't, then that money will just go back into the reserves. And then school safety, we are looking at replacing some school safety lights and educational material, which is expenditure of $21,000, leaving us a projected balance of $38,000. The next steps would be having our first public hearing on the 26th of August, the next second public hearing on the 9th, and then council consideration of adopting both the budget and the tax rate on the 23rd. This is for the next item, which would be council action for the public hearings.
So it will require a motion to have the city hold public hearings. And right before we ask for that motion, up until this point, we hear this as being the mayor's budget, and included in there, you'll have my letter talking about some highlights. I really just wanted to take a moment to give a shout of appreciation to Marion for the countless hours spent on this, and all our department heads, Selena for putting us all together as well. Endless hours of conversations on a myriad of topics, as you might imagine, and I don't know what we have here, 200 and some pages of financial data that we've been pouring through. People hear me say this all the time, that we're running on a kind of a razor-thin budget, as it were. There's a lot of things we'd like to do. One thing I would like to point out, you saw it in the slide before, the breakdown of where we're spending our money across the city. Public safety is 49%. That's an abnormally small number compared to city budgets. It really should be more in the 60 to 65% of a budget. If you look at all the other items, there isn't money to pull out of those. So that means we really need to take a look at the next increases of income from our city as our city grows, to be kind of looking towards our police and fire. We are blessed to have the people that we have in our employ, both from leadership and our chiefs, all the way down to our privates and our patrolmen, for their attitudes. All of our employees citywide, they're doing a tremendous amount with very little resources. And you look at $8.6 million, that sounds like a lot, but for a city of 12,000 people and 82 total employees, we're doing miracles over here, and I appreciate every single person that's in earshot that works with this, works at the city, works with the city. Tremendous employees we have here, and tremendous staff. And thank you for all your hard work, and well, that's all I can say is just thank you. It's heartfelt, and I know we're in here neck deep in it, rolling up our sleeves every single day. And I'm not at the fire station, and you're here all the other days as well. At this point, as we go forward, The next part of the process is actually to have a public hearing, and we do need a motion to be able to have a hearing. So we are looking for a motion to, for the city to hold public hearings for the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 budget on August 26th and September 9th of 2021. Do we have a motion for that?
I move the city hold public hearings for the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 budget on August 26th and September 9th of 2021.
By Councilmember Salazar. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Additionally, we're looking for somebody to make a motion for the city to have an action item to adopt the proposed fiscal year 21-22 budget on September 23rd of 2021.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city have an action item to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget on September 23rd, 2021.
Motion by McCrossan, second by.
I'll second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We basically effectively covered our tax rate already through that.
We did.
Yeah, that was just an extra piece of paper that breaks it down for you. And two other
May I
pages.
ask a question?
Yeah, please.
As I recall, I mean, I'm not thinking straight, but don't we have to approve the proposed tax rate
You do, you have to, that's, yeah,
at this meeting?
at this meeting, yes. And that's the action that's required on the last of your,
So we move into the
you're going into item number 14.
proposed tax rate. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
So item number 14 is a discussion of an action on setting the proposed tax year 2021 ad valorem property tax rate, setting the meeting to adopt it. So we're looking for a motion and a second for item number 14 is written.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on number 14.
Okay.
I second.
Massey and Sellers. Okay.
And I would like to propose the tax rate of 0.343979 per 100,000. With the M&O rate of 0.281232 and the INS rate of 0.062747.
I'm very glad that we're able to move it down, even if it's just the smidgy of smidges. We'll take it, especially with property values going up in our area. We will take anything we can get. So if it's prudent and we can do it, I'm happy we can do this for the citizens.
So, any other comments or questions? Okay. All in favor of setting up the proposed tax rate for M&O at 0.281232 and our INS at 0.062747, along with setting meeting to adopt on September 23rd, 2021. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Any additional comments? With no additional comments, questions, we'll adjourn this meeting. We are now adjourned. The time is 8:24.